So, it turns out I've got a face that only a mother can love, and today we're going to be talking about balancing the FlyCam 3000. Welcome back guys, I'm Byron Phillips from byronphillipsmedia.com, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about balancing the FlyCam 3000 and similar systems like this. I've already created another video regarding the assembly and what you get in the box for the FlyCam, but for today's episode we're purely going to be talking about how to balance this as best as you can as a novice and a beginner, because you're always going to be tweaking in the first early stages. I certainly am, and I don't always get quite the nuances of this, but the point of this season is to show you what you can expect when you are purchasing this for the first time as a beginner, and what type of frustrations and expectations you're going to need to get when assembling this and balancing. So without further ado, we're just going to quickly run through the various components of the FlyCam. So on the bottom you've got the base plate, and these are 2 cylinders currently at the moment, but the package does come with 4. So there are 12 counterweights in total. For the system that I use, I'm currently got 2 base plates in each, but for today's purposes I'm going to have to remove 2 because I don't have the camera because it's currently recording. So I'm just going to use an Edelkrone Head 1 Plus unit, and that only requires 1 in each, so I will remove those base plates later. The next part is you've got the center shaft. This is at the moment at its shortest part, and this can extend further down. This adds extra counterweight without you having to add additional plates. It's the same effect as you holding a 5 kilo weight here. It feels quite light, but then when you extend your arms out, that weight significantly increases, and that is in effect what's happening here when you extend that. Now the reason why you would extend that is during the drop time. So if you're finding that it's dropping too slow, you can add in extra length on the main rod, and then this will allow it to be heavier and swing faster. So that gives you an extra bit of play without having to faff with all the counterweights. The next area then is the gimbal itself. You will hold the handle here, and everything that you do will affect this system completely. So it really does pay to learn how to use a FlyCam or a GlideCam or any of the similar systems. Now for this particular model, on the top you have 2 plates and the quick release plate. On the top is 4 knobs, and this controls the forward and backward sliding, and on the bottom then you have the left and right movements. So these will allow you to make micro adjustments or general adjustments when you put your camera on, and you might find it's tilting forward, tilting back, or depending on how you got the configuration of your rig setup will determine which way this is naturally going to lean. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the GlideCam, the Edelkrone, because the GlideCam's there, we're going to put this now on. I've already attached the quick release plate. So this slides in like so, and then the quick release plate. Now before I let this go, I've already offset this, so I'm not entirely sure which way it's going to go, but I know that I've done it deliberately, so it's just moving back. I was kind of hoping it would move to the side, and I'll deliberately do that to show you the effect. So say for instance you have a microphone on the left hand side or the right hand side, because this won't be dead center and the weight is literally off center, you're going to get an issue whereby when you first balance it, it's not going to be straight. So like I said, there we go. So this is now leaning to the left and it's leaning back. So what we want to try and do is get this as straight as we can. And the way that we achieve this is that there are 4 knobs. Now on other systems you may get that it is only 2, so one will be at the back and that will control the back and forth, and then the one on the side will actually control the lateral movements, so that will adjust it left to right. And those are much better systems because they allow you to make the micro adjustments and really fine tune it, whereas with these, because you've got to adjust each of the 4 knobs, it can be quite time consuming when you need to move it in a general direction. The other issue is that if you need to move it, you've got to be very dexterous with your fingers, because you've got to move it 1 millimeter sometimes, or 2 millimeters, and if you're not paying attention you can actually shift it quite far quite quickly, so be mindful of that when you're doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it back to the center by adjusting the 4 knobs in the bottom. Now what I would suggest you do when we're at this stage, because we're not doing the drop test, undo the 4 knobs and then literally move it back to where it needs to go. If you're happy with where it sits, then I would suggest you just tighten one rather than the whole 4. So that's relatively straight on this axis. Now what we're noticing is that it's moved it back. So the base plate is tilting forward and the head unit is tilting back. So we need to shift this forward. So let's undo all 4 of these and we will move the unit forward. So that looks relatively right. So at the moment I'm only tightening the one back up, and that might not look straight to you, but it's looking relatively okay. So that is the way that you would adjust it forward and backwards. Now you're gonna find that it might take you a lot longer. I've had a few practices with this. I previously did another video demonstrating this and I completely binned that video because it was crap. So what you want to make sure is that if you are having to make micro adjustments, be very gentle with it when you're moving, because you will shift it, because you just got to put light but firm pressure to get it moving, especially in the lateral movements. I find that's where I make the most mistakes. So I've tightened this and the others are loose, so I'm just gonna turn it just to see that we are okay and it's fine. It's a little bit forward, I can see it that way, so I might just shift this back a little bit, and fingers crossed this will go wrong and I can show you what happens, but I'm having to be very so I literally for there we are. I'm happy with that. So when you're holding it, you have to push it, be firm, but push it ever so slightly, and it's that point where you don't think you're moving it and then you go to apply more pressure. Be careful at that point because you will slide it forward, and these things are very sensitive to how you balance it. So it's really important that you take your time doing this. So if I move this back to the front, there we go. So that is relatively straight. Lean is slightly that way, which means it's off center, because I can see the gimbal is off center as well. There we go. It does lean in when it's going that way. So what I want to find out is if it's doing it the other way. Not as much, no. That is now leaning a tiny bit. So I would want to micro adjust this when I say micro, it might not adjust very well, and this is the part where I'm just going to do that. I've literally just touched it. Some fingers crossed. Let's balance this off. It hasn't made a blind bit of difference. It's fine there. It's fine there. I'm noticing as I come to this side. Oh, actually, no, that wasn't too bad. So I will leave it like that for the time being. But this will be an ongoing thing. You need to spend quite a bit of time making sure that everything is balanced. So once you're happy with that, the next part then is we're going to have to do the drop test. Now the drop test is where you hold the gimbal out to the side and you literally drop it. Now we are looking for anything between 2 to 3 seconds. Anything before that in your footage is going to look jittery. Anything longer than that, and then you're talking about there's not enough weight on the base plates to bring it down in a reasonable manner. So what will happen is when you're running and gunning or just walking about with these things, it's going to look like you're on a boat, and then you can have a gentle sway and it's not going to come back quick enough, and that's going to be sickening for your audience to view, because it's going to make them feel like they're on a ship. So you want to make sure that when you do the drop test, it's between 2 and 3 seconds. If you prefer it longer, I suggest you wouldn't go more than 4, but yeah, I would stick to 2 to 3. Now I know for a while that this is going to be too heavy because there's already 2 plates in there, and there shouldn't be. There should only be 1 each. So 1. So that's dropping 1 second. Now this is dropping too quick for me. I can't lower this anymore because that will incur more weight. So the only option I've got at the moment is to take the base plates out. And what I will do is just unscrew this. Come on. Just grab the one. Now it might be that when we do this, that it'll give us the 2 to 3 seconds that we're looking for, or we might need to extend the rod, but either way we will have a look and find out exactly where we need to make further adjustments. It might be, there we go. Now that the head is obviously heavier than the base, which is evidently shown by the fact that it is dipping. So it's trying to turn, it's trying to go to the heavier side, which is now the head. So as you can see, that is leaning. But we will do the drop test to find out exactly what is going on. Right, before I'm just letting it balance out. There we go. 1, 2, 3. I don't like that. 1, 2, 3. So he's naturally wanting to come back, and that is no good, so we are going to have to extend this shaft, which will add additional counterweight. So now I don't even need to add more plates, because that will be counterintuitive after I've just... So I'm going to extend it a bit to see what the effects are. So Instantly we can see now that we are balancing, and because I've extended that plate is offline, so off center, I mean. So I'll get that center. Try and keep things as relatively parallel as you can. So now that we know that the actual base weight is heavier than the camera or the head unit, so what we want to do again now is to see what the effects are of this. One, it's too heavy. So now we need to shorten it. So I'll move it up. One, two. Let's get in there. Now I'm just going to let this balance. One, two, okay. One, two, there we are. So I'm happy with that drop. As you can see, one, two. Okay, that is fast enough for me, the drop time. But now I'm noticing that we are too far over this way to the left, so I will adjust this, and it might be because this was my fault, because I only made an adjustment, I only tightened up one of the knobs, and there is a very good chance that that has slipped when going to the side. So don't make my mistake, but it's all good learning. But these are nice and tight. That's moving it forward, so that's the front. Let's get it back. There we go. And that is our camera balanced. So the next test that we would want to do is the dynamic test, and that is basically holding the glide cam, the FlyCam, in your hand, and then doing the forward and side to side motions to see whether or not the head or the base plate is actually leading, or does it remain relatively stable. Now from this, what you're going to have in your head, because when I first saw people doing this, I was like, there was still things leading, but you're not going to be doing that in real life. In real life, you're going to be holding it, and then you're going to be guiding where the camera goes in this hand. So as long as there is a good stability moving forward and backwards and everything looks relatively okay out in the field, you're just going to be using your fingers to actually hold and guide to turn this. So we're now going to perform the dynamic test, so fingers crossed this will be okay. Slightly turning, I think, yeah, something's leading. It looks like the head is leading a little bit, which means I might need more weight on the bottom. So the way that you can do this is, I'll just rig this up a bit. I'll extend this out a tiny bit. One, two, okay. Let's get this back. Make sure we're still slightly leaning forward. That's okay. Notice the head is leaning. I think that's because I am off. Yeah, the balance is definitely off, so that's going to affect it. So in order to get around that, you've got to quite literally go back and adjust things and make sure, as you can see, it is leaning forward. So let's sort this out. I'm just wondering if I've been a plum. Because I've had this set up so that this is the forward part, but that is leaning to the left or to the right. So that will affect it. And this is one of the requirements that you're going to have to go through when you're doing these things, is that you're going to have a certain degree of patience. Actually, where was it? Let's go this way. A certain degree of patience when balancing. If you are setting up a rig and it doesn't change much, like with what I've got, then that is great, because then that means that you don't have to keep wrong way faffing. Means you don't have to keep faffing every time you change configuration. So it is really important to understand that these things are not meant to be done on the day, getting to a client or getting to wherever you are that you're going to shoot and then deciding I'm going to change something, because then you're going to have to make the adjustments. So let's have a look. Better. Slightly turning, but better. I don't know why it turns. It does do a natural turn, but I will have to work that out in time, but I won't bore you with that. It's very conscious. And there we go. Not perfect, but it's going to take time, and that is the key point with all of this when learning a system such as a glide cam or FlyCam or whomever you decide to purchase. Bear in mind that these things take a while to set up. I mean, it only, I think we've got what, 20 minutes for us at the moment, which is relatively okay. But when you're out in the field, 20 minutes eats up a lot of time, especially when you've got a whole lot of other stuff, gear with you, and it can become a real pain in the ass. But in saying that, I really love the footage that I get with this. I really love the natural, organic look that you get. You've got to work for it, and this series is all about what a beginner like myself can expect, and hopefully together we will get through the pain of setting these things up and the learning curve and the nuances. So please, please, I'll only say it once, please like and subscribe, and if you've got any comments, please share, and if you've got any ideas or any tips that would help myself or other viewers on the balancing of such systems, please feel free to comment. Alright, see you again.